All right, Michael, do you want to kind of give a quick little introduction to yourself and why you're doing this event today or why you're
Sure.
doing this best practice webinar?
Sure. My name is Michael Corbett. I'm a vice president of CareerSource Palm Beach County. We're a workforce board here in Southeast Florida. We are a community of about 1.5 million people. Our unemployment rate in March was about 3%. It jumped up to 14% in April. It has jumped back and forth, and as of last week, it's down to about 8%. And we've done virtual job fairs since the beginning of April. We were fortunate that we had these already teed up and ready to go. I sincerely believe that because of the virtual job fairs, that has contributed to the unemployment rate starting to drop for us. And we enjoy doing these. We do them with our border counties and other workforce boards. So hopefully I can share some of the experiences that we've had, but Steve will show you a demo and let you see it in real time. So I look forward to talking with you.
All right, thank you, Michael. You know, Michael was a very early adopter of the virtual career fair. Once, COVID hit, their team was on top of everything to be able to make sure that they could navigate the virtual world. But more importantly, they wanted to still continue to serve their clients, right? And they have two aspects of clients, your candidates, your job seekers, as well as your companies. So they were able to switch into the virtual world very quickly, putting on events for individual organizations, as well as they're moving their in-person job fairs with multiple companies to the virtual world. They also started just a few months ago partnering, like he said, with the neighboring communities around. So they do a monthly career fair with the two neighboring counties, one to the north, one to the south, to be able to have candidates that are on the borders and find jobs as well. So I want to start this off today a little different. We do some monthly webinars with best practices and different things, and I always get a lot of questions at the end and stuff. And I want to start it different today, right? Everybody on here has probably been on a lot of Zoom calls since COVID's hit, a lot of webinars, and sometimes you're not really paying attention, but you are, and you really want to be. So I'm going to put it in the ball in your court today. So for the people that are, listening to this, let's start out with a couple questions. Anybody have any questions about, virtual, maybe, our background, how we got into virtual, what we see on best practices from, either Michael to myself or anything. One thing I forgot to mention is when I got out of the Army, I moved down to South Florida for college. And, I went to college. I'm from small town Wisconsin. Really got here to be able to plant palm trees over snow. I think most people would agree at 21 years old, that was a little bit better if you don't like cold weather. So, but I got into the job fair industry and I put on in-person job fairs for almost 9 years. 2 years ago, I saw a big change in the market with the unemployment rate being very low. And this is how we kind of got to the virtual world of where we were at. And when I dabbled into the virtual and couldn't find exactly what we were looking for, and I sat down with my clients and said, what do you want to see? And it has been, this is where Premier Virtual was built from, is from a recruiter standpoint of view. We wanted to mirror an in-person event as much as possible. Now, since then, right, obviously things have changed. And if we just look at April to September, and September's not even over. So in 6 months, we put on almost 500 virtual career fairs. We've had over 48,000 candidates have registered and participated in events, and over just about 5,000 businesses have participated. So when you see that, and I look at the numbers, and when I was looking at them 2 weeks ago, I said, we did more in 6 months. The amount of events and the amount of candidates that came through our system than 9 years. So in 5.5 months, we did more volume in candidates and events than we did in almost 9 years. Now that shows the efficiency. Right now, it's kind of virtual is something that was forced on everybody. If you would have said to me 3 years ago, right, Steve, would you be running a technology company that puts on virtual events? I don't think so. That's one part of our business. Because I'm a face-to-face, shake your hand, huge into networking, always doing those type of events where you had to pivot on there. So if you can see, where we're at, nobody was expecting this. Not a lot of people wanted this, but now it's something that's going to be here. And you're going to see, even when it goes back to post-COVID, which I'm already looking at, you're starting to see organizations that are looking at hybrid events where they can have an in-person event as well as a hybrid component to it. Or 1 week we have an in-person, 1 week we have a hybrid. So there's lots of different things out there. So I see a couple questions coming through. I'm going to start answering these. So John, how large of a metropolitan area are you located? I'm going to guess that might be for Michael for Palm Beach, if he's talking about a metropolitan area. Michael, do you want to take that one?
Sure. So Palm Beach County is about 1.5 million people. We're located just above Miami and Fort Lauderdale. Some of the larger cities would be West Palm Beach, Boca Raton, Delray, Boynton, Palm Beach Gardens, and Jupiter. And it's a very diverse business community. Our industries, agriculture out in the glades is very big with sugarcane and vegetables. We have a very large aviation, aerospace industry cluster, very large IT telecom, obviously healthcare, advanced manufacturing, very diverse business community. And our workforce is probably close to 600,000 people in Palm Beach County.
All right. Thank you, Michael. Next one from what adjustments did you need to make for the virtual job fair and best practices for reaching clients and employers?
Okay. Well, as I mentioned earlier, unemployment was up at around 14% within a month after COVID hit, and it's been bouncing back and forth. It's down to about 8%. We had a lot of job orders in our system at the time, and then a lot of employers kind of put those on hold. And when they did want to fill their positions, the way that they brought people to their companies was setting them up remotely, but yet they were still hiring. I can tell you today we have about 4,500 open jobs just in our statewide system in Palm Beach County. So things are improving here. I see a question on travel and tourism. That industry was just cratered here in Palm Beach County. It was down probably 70%. Our airport, Palm Beach International, their business was way off. But because people did or still want to get away, a lot of local tourism is taking place. We're seeing people driving more. I see hotels that are on the weekends, they're full. Hotel downtown The Bend, that's brand new, a Marriott Autograph model, is packed on the weekends. The other large chains, the Breakers and the Boca Hotel, they're coming back, but that was an industry that was obviously very devastated. Like Steve said earlier, you're reaching out to your businesses. We do industry specific job fairs. I can show you my screen if you'd like, that may be helpful. I don't know if I'm seeing it here. I don't see what I was trying to show you, but anyway, we're going to do a hospitality, tourism, retail job fair tomorrow. And we're doing it with Broward and the Treasure Coast. We probably have 50 companies, and I think we're upwards of 600 job seekers that'll attend tomorrow, and that number will jump. Those numbers jumped the last 24 hours. So I hope that answered your question.
All right. I'm gonna jump in on that as well, just because we've seen, so many organizations that, that they're put on. I work with a lot of job fair organizations that had to scramble. Their business went from weekly and monthly job fairs to nothing. So, switching to that, the virtual side of it, and some from the client side is, they went from companies that were hiring to companies that were not hiring, is getting it out there. And again, there's a lot of people that this is something that's new for them. So it was, we'll say, a little scary for them, and they weren't ready for it. So the biggest thing when you're looking at a virtual career fair, and if you're the host of the event and like a workforce with, with Michael, is when they do their events, they do a best practice webinars for the companies, so that not only do they send them training videos and stuff like that, but they also do a best practice webinar so that they can on. So at 10:30 this morning, we did an event with the companies to kind of go over so that they feel comfortable with it, because not everybody is comfortable with technology. And some people need a little bit more help. And, you know, when we designed this, we designed it to be as user friendly as possible. So it doesn't matter where somebody's at on their technical skills, they can still navigate it, both from a candidate side and a company side. But if you can get ahead of it and show, you know, the videos to the candidates to say, hey, you can go in and it's the same thing. You can look at these companies, you can look at their organization, you can look at what job vacancies they have, and then you can chat as well and show them that, get them that information that's out in front of them, as well as your companies, okay? Getting to the company saying, hey, here's what a virtual career fair looks like. Here's a training video. Let's get on a call. Let's get, make sure you jump on the webinar of that as well. Because, you know, again, I'm a military guy. So, right, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So if you make sure that these people are set up and they understand it, they're not going to have those issues on the back end. Next question we have is, do you charge a fee for employers to attend a virtual job fair? Okay, Michael, you're on. You muted yourself. You shared your screen though, so we see that.
I figured out how to unmute. Thank you. I wanted to show you one of the flyers. So this is for our event tomorrow. And at the top, you can see there's 3 workforce boards that are partnering on this event. And last week, we did a hospitality event just for country clubs, H-2B visa type workers. And we purposely did that because that's a different market for us in Palm Beach County. And those that did not get a job or an interview, a week later, tomorrow, they can come to this event. And you can see we partnered with all of our chambers of commerce, all of our economic development organizations, all the folks that need to be involved are involved. And you can see that it's free for job seekers and it's free for companies. And this is the main point here. We have a very good relationship with CareerSource Florida in Tallahassee, the umbrella organization of all 24 boards in Florida. And as soon as we started doing this, I called the COO up there, Andrew, and we had a conversation, and he went to his board and said, we need to try to figure out what to do to support all the boards across the state. And thank goodness they encumbered some dollars to research and investigate some virtual job fair platforms. And after about 30 days, they selected Steve and Premier Virtual. So every board in the state of Florida has access to this platform to do a single event or multiple events, whatever they want to do. And it's at no cost to us because CareerSource Florida picked up that cost, and that's huge for us. And as I said, this one is going to be on virtual, on hospitality and tourism. Next month, we're doing one on healthcare. Then we're doing one for veterans on Paychecks for Patriots Week during the week of November 9th to 13th. We're going to do that statewide. I want to do one on logistics, distribution, and warehouses in early December because all of those types of jobs are going to open up through FedEx and UPS and Amazon, all that type of stuff. So I'm a strong proponent of doing this as quickly and as easily for not only companies, but as for job seekers.
All right, thank you for sharing that, Michael. And if you see, Michael is again, and there's people from all walks of life and industries, and that are here today. And you can see if you're hosting an event, right? Michael is really good at partnerships and getting the community partners involved in your events as well. Now, one thing, and he touched on a little bit too, is doing it for individual organizations, right? Like Palm Beach. Big tourism, people want to come here, hotels aren't there, but you can do an event for something that's, for the entire state of Florida, for a national as well. So there's so much that you can do on the virtuals. Next one, Michael, is what's been the applicant participation level recently?
And that's a good question. I don't know what it's like in your areas, but in Palm Beach County, we had about 160,000 people lose their job in the first 30 to 60 days. That's a pretty steep number. And I didn't want to, as a workforce board, have to burden that to try to get these people back to work. And that was one reason that we partnered with everybody, because I wanted the community to take on a little bit of that burden to get people back to work. And that has worked. But the other thing that came into play was the federal money that came down at, what was it, $600 a week on top of, in Florida, it's $275. So you had a lot of people that were taking in $875 a week. And frankly, they had no incentive to go back to work. And that may be the case in your state. And as that money ran out in the end of July, I thought, well, we'll see more people coming to the virtual job fairs and applying for our jobs in our system. It just really hasn't happened yet. And then President Trump made available the FEMA money, which in Florida was $300 on top of the state's $275. So people were getting $575. And I still think there's a lot of people that they're comfortable in sitting home, and we've got to figure out a way to get back that. But the participation at the job fairs has been good. As I said earlier, we're probably up at 600 to 700 people for tomorrow between the three communities, and that'll probably jump. They get into the platform, and hopefully they like the companies and the jobs they see and begin chatting with the hiring managers. I love that. Anytime you put hiring managers with job seekers, good things are going to happen. And then hopefully the day or two after, those hiring managers winnow it down and then take people into Zooms and go to meetings and Skypes to talk to people. And hopefully we capture the job placements from there.
Yeah, and another thing too to really go on top of that, Michael, as well, is the login ratio. So, and I think I'd have to pull the the final reports that you guys have, but I think you're over a 70% login ratio as well. So, and I think some of them have hit. I know there was one in Palm Beach County that hit over 90% of a login ratio. So when you start to look at we'll call it the virtual efficiency, is candidate in person has to get dressed. They have to get up, get stuck in traffic, wait in line to talk to a company to find out what jobs they have and what they're hiring for. On the virtual world, they can see all of that from their couch. So you can see where your login ratio is higher than your show ratio at in-person. So, that's one thing that you're always going to want to look at too when you're looking at doing events, is not just the registration of how many registered, but how many are logged in. That's the more important number. And you see as a whole, we had an event the other day that had over 3,000 people registered, and they were at a 97% login ratio. It was a university. They had over 21,000 resumes submitted, over 71,000 booth views. That was done, and it was over a 2-day period, but less than that, it was 8 hours. So 71,000 booth views, 21,000 resume submissions, over 125,000 chat messages back and forth. That's data that you can see, that you can know, that you can track, which is good for, especially if you're a workforce development board, and we know that the reporting is what you need for the funding aspects of it. That reporting is built in for you that you don't get in some other aspects as well. So you can really sit down with your companies and say, here's who applied to your positions, right? If you're an individual company looking to do events, you can track, here's who visited our hiring room, here's who submitted their resume to these positions and stuff like that. So you can see all of that information. All right, next question, Michael, is when planning a virtual job fair, what are key factors to consider? Audience, size, location, and do you have a roadmap that helps you plan a virtual job fair?
Okay, that's a good question. As with in-person events, you have to assemble an internal planning team, which we do. We bring in the business services team, the recruiters, obviously marketing and communication. And now that we're doing them on a regional basis, we do go to meetings and Zooms all the time with those folks to make sure everybody's on the same page. We make tweaks and so forth. There really isn't a location. The one thing that we did early on is when we do these events, we convene in our boardroom. We have a pretty large boardroom with a number of flat screen TVs, and it becomes our war room. and we bring in the recruiters and the business services people, social distancing, we bring in snacks and beverages. And that way everybody can see what's going on the flat screens. If there's somebody chatting or asking questions, everybody's interacting within the team. It's a lot of fun. Most of our recruiters have been working remotely for 6 months or more. It gives them a chance to get out of the house and come in, and we're doing that, the business services team. So keep that in mind when you do this. The other thing is, one of the first events we did with Palm Beach Tech, we had it open for 12 hours. And I knew when Nikki said she wanted to keep it open 12 hours, that was probably not going to be a good idea. And obviously, when you opened it up at 8 in the morning, you had a big flow of people because everybody's up out of bed and they want to get their day going and they want to apply and look and so forth. But by 10:30 or so, you could see it dramatically tapering off. It picked back up at lunchtime, a little bit around dinner time, but by 6:15, the recruiters that were working the event were on they were in no man's land, unfortunately. So I think Steve will talk about that. And the other thing is your marketing in social media. I shared with you a flyer which we push out, and then by all the partners, they put it in their e-newsletters. They talk it up on their different workshops that they're doing through the chambers and industry organizations. But they help. Social media is so big with this because everybody is living on their phones. This is the way that they register and interact, and you have big spikes from companies today and tomorrow for our event tomorrow, and then job seekers today, tonight, tomorrow. We're signing up companies while the event is going on, and since we're not charging anything, we can help. The other thing is John from Premier Virtual and Steve and his team, they're there. They have somebody assigned to this. If somebody's struggling, the technical support team steps right in. If we have an issue, we call. We iron it out very quickly. Even when you've got 50 or 60 employers, we seem to have this pretty well figured out since April. But that's an advantage of having somebody that knows what they're doing behind the scenes, because we're juggling a lot here leading up to the event and through the event. But planning is always key to a successful event.
You know, I think as a whole, Michael, and again, you guys do very well there, is if you set your plan up and say, what do you want to do? And you know, some organizations come in and they say, okay, we're going to go in and we're going to do an event for one individual company. So they kind of can get in, they get their event done without going with a lot. Now, we've had some that have jumped right in with 100+ companies, some that have jumped in with over 200 companies. But if you do that, what I always tell people is ideally a week before your event is you want to be able to have a webinar. Okay. This is a best practice. This is a demo webinar for your companies and the recruiters that are going to be on it, because we all know not everybody watches training videos. Not everybody goes into the facts section and looks at everything. And ideally what you want is you want them to do it a week out from these big events, because then the recruiters see the platform. They're in the platform, they get it. Then they can say, okay, if I have questions, they can go right with something else. Because a lot of times if you don't do that, and you're going to have some of these out there that are, I don't want to watch a training video, I don't want to do anything. But then they call you 3 minutes before the event and say, hey, walk me through the entire platform, right? So you want to have it as smooth as possible for you as an organization to try to have all that done beforehand. Because like Michael said, right, they're juggling a lot of different things. The virtual job fairs is just one thing that you're doing out there. So my team, every account out there has an account manager that is going to be there for you. We also have our support and implementation team that's here. So if you have a question, if your company has a question that says, hey, I can't do this, you know, we can walk them through to make sure that they can log in to be able to see this, that information in there. So putting that kind of, let's say, a time frame on it of, here is first what you want to start with is a date. Let's start with a date and know when we want to have a date of the event. Then you want to know, okay, you know, are we going to do, is it just us? Is it all industries? Is it, you know, just one company? What do we want to be able to do? so you can put all that together. Another thing, I know there's a lot of people from workforce development boards as well, is to have a training just with your business services team. Because if you have, and we have some organizations that have just one contact, well, that'll be the only person. We train them, and then they have to train that person. We do this on a daily basis. They do it. They've done it once or twice. So they may not understand everything. So I like to have a training call with all of the business services teams, so that now each person that is going to be talking and helping their companies out understand what they're going to see. All the people that are going to be working with the job seekers understand what they're going to see. So that if they understand it, they can get a little bit better out to their companies as well. So having a time frame, knowing what you want to do, is it going to be industry specific? Is it going to be for one company? Is it going to be general? Having a time of, okay, this is the last time. This is, and not everybody does this because it's very tough, especially when a company calls you 30 minutes before the event, says, hey, I want to be in this event. Do you let them in? Do you not let them in? It's because all of a sudden, one is easy. All of a sudden you have 10, 15, 20 that are trying to jump in, and then you're juggling, you're stressing out and stuff like that. Again, and having them kind of build their booth, it's very easy, right? We made it very easy for them to be able to do. But do you want to stress at that long time? Especially if you're going to be marketing the companies that are going to be out there. If you're going to market and get this out to the companies, it's either the company names or the job positions. Maybe you have a cutoff date so that you can send in to these candidates, hey, here are the companies that are going to be here. Here are the types of jobs that are going to be there as well, so that you now have all of that information. Okay. Next question. Oops, we got a couple questions here. Do you need to limit the number to manage it more efficiently? I'm guessing that's, do you need to limit the number of companies to manage it more efficiently?
No, I don't think so. I'm kind of the more the merrier type of person. I have business services team. If, like Steve just said, companies are coming at the last minute, those folks on the business services team are holding those people's hands and getting them in if it makes sense. We have the recruiters that are working with the job seekers. We do this pretty efficiently at this point in time. I'm sure it comes with after doing them a couple times. But there was something I was thinking about when Steve was talking. We do workshops the day before. So this morning at 10:30, we did a workshop on social etiquette, on how to interview, soft skills, resume, making sure your resume is up and running, all the traditional things. But one of the things we've added is a LinkedIn account, how important that is becoming for the different employers, because that's one of the first things they do. We recorded that session, and then tomorrow we'll allow that to play during the event, so it keeps the job seeker engaged. And one of the earlier job fairs, and we'll revisit this again, is we had set workshops, 3 or 4, that were running every hour or so. And it gave the job seekers a reason to come back to hear a different speaker talk about a different topic, and then the next hour, a different speaker, a different topic. That's something to add to this that is really beneficial. It engages not only some of the experts that are in the job fair on the call, but for the job seekers to stay involved. So hopefully that helps.
Are you finding that employers are more comfortable with virtual job fairs now, or are they reluctant to participate?
I think if companies have open jobs, they're exploring any avenue to try to get job seekers to look at their jobs and apply. I can tell it's becoming a more competitive market. It went from a job seekers market to an employer's market, but it's starting to shift back a little bit as the economy is improving. I have not had companies push back. It was a little bit of a change, but I think once we talked them through, and then we provided the training videos and tutorials, and then did some of the demos, their hiring managers and recruiters became comfortable with this. And I think they understand that this is going to be a way of hiring people moving forward. So I didn't see any pushback from employers. The larger employers, they embraced this immediately. They knew this added to their Indeeds and all the job boards that they post their positions on. So it's a new trend, and I think it'll continue.
All right. And that leads kind of right into the next question, Michael, is what is your feedback from some of your employers? Are they pleased?
I think the employers are pleased. I think where the disappointment is coming is up to this point, not as many job seekers as we anticipated. I'll give you an example. We had a pretty large distribution company that was hiring for good jobs, driving and warehouse, $15 an hour plus benefits. We didn't have a large number of job seekers. I think they are still comfortable sitting home with the compensation they're receiving from their unemployment benefits in the federal government. So I would rather see us incent employees to get back to work versus incenting them to not work. And I think there's a balance there. So, but for the most part, employers have been happy and satisfied.
All right, thank you. And then kind of the last question that we have so far. Again, if anybody else has any other questions, anything, it doesn't matter if it's for myself or Michael or whatever, please put your questions in the chat. She just wants to know how many on your business services team. They're a very small market. I think they're actually in they're in a smaller market. So
our business services team, well, so again, a community of about 1.5 million people. Our workforce board between the office in West Palm Beach, Belle Glade out in the Glades, and Delray, we have about 125 people. The business services team is probably 7 or 8 people, and they're tasked with obtaining job orders. The recruiters obviously working with job seekers and referring to jobs. And while I was talking, I thought of something. One of the things we did very quickly through this was we know at some point we're going to get slammed with job seekers coming in. When the governor makes people actually go in and apply for the number of jobs every week in order to get their benefits, we're going to get slammed. We cross-trained our staff, but we have 17 county libraries in Palm Beach County, and we have about 13 municipal libraries all across the county. And I thought, well, let's use them to be an extension of our staff. Let's train their staff because they're going to get slammed when we get slammed. I don't want to make people drive to West Palm Beach or Belle Glade or Delray. They're probably comfortable with their local libraries. The libraries have computers and staff, so we trained almost all the staff at all the libraries across the county. We came up with a workforce certified credential, so they knew how to help them with job searching and resumes and interviewing and the basics of answering reemployment and unemployment questions and all that. And that has worked very well. The director of the library, Doug, and I had been trying for years to leverage each other, and it was this pandemic that finally provided the opportunity to tap into all the resources across the county, and that has worked very well. And they help push out these virtual job fairs. They print out copies. They hand them out every month to job candidates that come in. So I'm really happy we did that. And all of the libraries are very technologically equipped, and they have nice community rooms. So when we get back to doing virtual job fairs and in person, I'm going to start leveraging some of his community rooms in the libraries to do that, because we can put staff in there and with the companies and handle that very nicely and not incur any costs. So thinking innovatively, that was something we did, and maybe that makes sense in your community.
Michael, that was actually we had 2 questions based off of that. Is one, I think you kind of answered. Do you provide a place that people can attend the virtual job fair if they don't have internet access or the link? So one, you kind of just talked about that with the lobbies or the libraries or coming into your local offices. One thing I will touch on that as well is we're mobile friendly. So even if the candidate can't log into the internet, we deal with workforce boards, and kind of back to the original questions of the sizes, we deal with almost 100 workforce boards throughout the country. Some of them are very small. They're in rural areas. Some of them encompass 11 counties out in California that are much larger. So it's kind of a mix of everything, right? Well, if we look at Palm Beach and Michael, probably right in the middle of size-wise of what some of these organizations are. So mobile friendly, bringing them into it. He talked about the library, as well. And then the next question, Michael, is was there a name? She said, what was the name of the initiative with the libraries? She'd like to, get a little bit more information on that. Was that something that you just did, or was there an initiative that came down, or how did that come about?
I'm from a different generation. I'm probably older than most of you people. And on Saturday morning when I grew up in Northeast Ohio, my mom would drop off my brother and my sisters and I at the library. And that was a great place. They had also, I look at them now, they've got CDs, they've got audio. I mean, it's unbelievable. And when I first met Doug and realized how beneficial and valuable the libraries were in Palm Beach County, I thought they were underutilized. And when this started, I don't know, I woke up one night and I said, how can Doug and that was the kernel of the idea, is let's leverage them. And they weren't open for 2 months or so. And then they were open on a limited basis. They restrict people to an hour on their computers, and then they time out. And if there's people waiting, they don't. But here's another really good thing I'm thinking right now we did. In Florida, when you log into the reemployment system, it puts you in a queue. It puts you in a waiting room. And the beginning of this, people were sitting in that waiting room for a very long time, very frustrated. You probably read about it in the news. So we went to DEO, the Department of Economic Opportunity here in Florida, because they were putting our people in our career centers and resource rooms in the queue. And we said, that's not going to fly here. You need to put us at the front of the queue. And it took a couple days, and finally all the different workforce boards across Florida were able to get themselves IP addresses at the front of the queue. Well, I said, let's get the libraries at the front of I don't want the people timing out before they even can get in and claim their benefits or job search. So we took their IP addresses and sent it up there, and they basically fell under our umbrella, and now people are at the front of the queue. And they're not sitting there waiting for 45 minutes to get in to the system, and then their hour is up and they get tossed off. That's not good. So we did the right thing, and I'm glad we did that. That's continuing to this day.
All right. Great work. All right. It doesn't look like there's any other questions. Michael, I'm going to give it just a couple more minutes for you to kind of just talk about maybe like a best practice or something. What have you learned from April on the first? And I know one of the big things you talked about was the time of the event. And to me, that's important. And I think that an event doesn't need to be more than 3 to 4 hours. What's your thought on the time of an event? And let's actually break it down a little bit more granular as well. For an individual company or a larger job fair, what's your thought on that?
I'm kind of the same school of thought. We're doing our event tomorrow from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. and we've had wonderful press coverage. There's something about this now that the community, I don't know what it is. This was never like this in Palm Beach County, where I'll get calls today, tomorrow. So the communications director to interview some of the companies to talk about their jobs so that they can talk it up on TV. It's been in the newspapers. It's been on the radio. So when we do big events like this, 9 to 1, for a singular company, sometimes we'll do it from 8 to 10 and then from 1 to 3, because we know we'll get a little bit different types of attendees. But if you're really out of work and you want to genuinely find a job, you're going to find time to go in, look at these companies and apply. If you're nonchalant about it, then I don't know. We're not going to cater to that group.
Gotcha. Yeah. And, it's, the time is really important. And I don't care if it's an afternoon one or morning one or an evening one. When you look at setting up an event, you have to look at 2 aspects of your thing. And right, I'm taking kind of an individual company out of it for a second. Really, you can add an individual in, is you can set up your event, and you have to think about, first, your job seekers, second, your recruiters. If you have an all-day job fair, that means your recruiters have to sit there all day long. Mm-hmm. Now, granted, they're at their computer anyway, and maybe there's going to be time somebody's here for an hour and they switch every 2 hours, but they have to be logged in. But when the all-day ones is what you really have to think about is those candidates, okay? Candidate thinks, oh, it's an all-day job fair. Oh, I don't have to log in at 9. I can do it at 10 o'clock. I can do it at 11. Oh, I take a phone call. Oh, I watch a show. Next thing you know, it's, you know, Jerry Springer's on all day and they get 1 episode, 2 episodes, 3. They're like, oh my gosh, this is great. They watch Netflix. They start like just watching all the shows. 5 o'clock comes because they always think they're going to do it the next hour, but then the next show comes on and they can't do it. If you put it as a time frame of here's these 3 hours, they know they have to log in. And what you're going to see is, and we've seen it as, you know, people have done events all day on our platform. People have done it short periods of times. And you see a higher login ratio, especially in your first 1 to 2 hours of the event. Now, even if with the unemployed, because people can come back and say, well, Steve, these people that are unemployed, or maybe they're not able to do it because of class, because of jobs. Most people are working from home right now. So they can log in virtually. They can log in from their phone. And if you drive them in, you have a better chance of driving more people in 3 hours than you do keeping people all day, okay? Yeah. Also, what you don't want to do is you don't want to frustrate your recruiters, because the recruiters that sit there, what are they going to do? They know they're busy in the beginning, so they get this big push from 9 o'clock to 1 o'clock, and then it dies down until 4 or 5 o'clock. They're like, it's not anything. Are they thinking about the positivity of those first 3 hours? Or are they thinking about how it was really dead? There was nobody logging in those last few hours. Drive them in, keep them into that, keep those recruiters focused for those 3 to 4 hours, and you keep those candidates that they're going to log in so they can go. Because I don't care if it's an in-person job fair or a virtual job fair, it's a feeder system. It's to get the candidates in the door, talk to the recruiters, take the next step of the interview process. What is that next step? Is it an in-person interview? Is it a Zoom, Teams, GoToMeetings interview? Or is it a phone call? What is that next step that you want to be able to do? So, you know, a lot of people are starting to see now is where they're doing the virtual career fair, and then the employers are setting up their interviews right after the job fair. So now they go right from the virtual job fair right into the interviews. So now they're scheduling interviews the rest of the day throughout the day. So it's a whole day of their recruiting while they're there. Take them right from the to the interviews. So what are some other things that you've learned since April?
Partnerships are incredibly valuable. I am a very inclusive person. We invite everybody to help support the event. They drive it out so it gets a lot of visibility to people that the spouses will tell their kids or their spouse if they're looking for work, and relatives, all that kind of stuff. And I really like the fact that it's convenient. You can handle a lot of this stuff. I'm a big networker. I love in-person events, but this is filling the void at this point in time, and it's really working quite well for us. And use social media and your communications team and marketing to push it out, and everybody wants to see everybody get back to work, and that's a good thing.
All right, thank you. All right, a couple other questions is you can have a room set up for workshops or job seeking tips that job seekers can access the day of the event?
Yeah, you can answer that, Steve.
Yeah, you can really set it up as when you're creating an event, you can have a booth, you could have technically a sub event. You know, we've seen some that have had resources. So we just had a big event in Maryland, a veterans event, and there was a resource tab. So when they came in, they had one booth was for resume review, one was for interview tips, and then they had some other stuff for just the veterans as well that they needed, like with VA and stuff like that. So you can set that up per per event so that you can come in. University of Cincinnati, when they had their event again, and you saw they had 3,000, they had 71,000 booth views, they had a student help desk in there. So when the students were in, and they had that in each sub event. So if you think about an in-person job fair, when you walk in, when a candidate walks in, you have a big group of all of these tables with all of these companies, and some have flashy banners, some don't have banners, but you don't really know what that company does, even though maybe it's a logo, but you don't know what they actually do or what they're hiring for until you wait in line to talk to them. With the virtual, how we set it up is you can set it up so it's by industries, locations, job titles. So when that candidate comes in, they can say, okay, just like in a searching for a job board, I'm looking for a certain job in a certain location. They can come in and search and see a list of all of the industries, click on that industry. So then all of the companies that are in there are hiring within the industry that they're looking to work in. So it makes it efficient for you. And what University of Cincinnati did is they put their student help desk right in each one of those industries. So if anybody had any questions throughout the day, they could go right in and be able to have that. Again, so with the job seeker side as well, so that you can always have that, right? And it's always important to be able to have something like that, because again, there might be a job seeker that comes in and maybe they're frustrated because looking for a job is not fun. I don't know how many people on here have ever had to look for a job. And, I've been, yeah, like I was saying, I know there's probably a lot of people that are, I've looked at it, from the time I got out of the Army, coming to college and, got into the job fair industry, I was the job fair company that I ended up being involved with. I was a client of theirs. So I was a client of theirs. My company shut down a division. I was then at job fairs and looking, because I looked at every aspect of where it was at. And then I was running job fairs. So I had been a company at a job fair. I'd been a candidate looking at a job fair. I hosted job fairs. And now we built this platform to have it. So I've been on all aspects of it. So looking for a job is just not fun. There's going to be people that are going to be frustrated that they have jobs. So sometimes they just want somebody to talk to. And if you have that job seeker thing, maybe it's, hey, I'm frustrated that I can't find this. Well, you can just walk them through and say, hey, go look at this company or something like that, so that you can help them as well. Another question we had off of that is, have you had customer report on access from only a cell phone? I'll take that, from a cell phone aspect of it. We're still seeing the majority of people are logging in from tablets, laptops, and desktops. We are seeing a percentage that are logging in from the mobile. It's not a high percentage, which you would think from a job seeker side, it would be a little higher. And really the only difference is you still see the same exact thing. You just don't see a pretty booth. Is really what it comes down to is everything that they need to do. They can still chat. They can still see the jobs. They can, see what the companies do. They can still see everything on a mobile that they can do, as long as they can get internet on the phone. Obviously it's different from let's say a larger cell phone to one of the smaller ones. They're not going to see as much, right? Because it's just not, not as easy, but the functionality is still all there on all of that. So any other questions that anybody else has in there? All right. What I'm going to do is, we only got about 10 minutes left. We don't have any other questions. Kind of Michael went over kind of some good things. I'm just going to go through and show a quick little demo of what a candidate would see coming into a job fair. So you now can see, here's what a candidate would see, and here's what a company sees as well. And maybe that, has other questions. I know earlier too, is somebody had asked about a roadmap. What John will do, John is from my team, handles the marketing. John will send out an email to everybody with our roadmap for the event. So we have a little brochure. We can send it out so you can get a little bit more information. And if anybody else wants any more information, you can reach back out to us as well. So I'm going to share my screen real quick so that you can see what an event looks like. So this is a registration page. So this is a job seeker registration page. You can create registration page for both your employers as well as your candidates. First, you have a branded graphic that is right here. So I'm going to show you, kind of one that, that Michael had talked about as well. So where you can see their branding. So again, Palm Beach, they're very big on partnerships. So you can create all of this information right here to be able to show your partners on here. Then you can have videos if you want to create a video of what is a virtual career fair. We have some commissioners, some senators. We have a governor that's looking to put a video on here that's kind of just talking about the career fair that's there. So you have spots for videos. This box down here, you can put logos, you can put words in there. It's all HTML formatted. So if you want to put links to your, company page, if you want to put it to your workforce development, Employ Florida, Cal Jobs, NC Commerce, Work in Texas, anything like that, you could put your site in here to make sure that candidates are going in there too. Also, when you create your registration page, you can ask questions. So if you want to ask a question is, are you a veteran? What's your workforce development board number? Some of them ask for, what type of job you're looking for. You can create custom questions so that you can track that for your candidates. Again, as we know, if you're on a workforce development side, you want to make sure that they're all set for your reporting purposes. If you're an individual company, you still get all of that reporting as well. So when a candidate comes in, I'm just going to log in here. They can come in and they can see an event. So I'll show you this one, and Michael had talked about this event real quick, is where they had webinars. So they had webinars throughout the event. They broke this up by tech jobs, non-tech jobs, tech education. This lobby is customizable. So you can create kind of what you want to be able to put, within here. So, this is the one that I said, Cincinnati, and they had 2 days set up. And then from there, they had their industries that they would click onto. So then a candidate would come in and they would be able to see the companies from there and then click on a company. So, and then this is kind of just our little demo one that we have right in here. So when they come in, again, you can create what you want. Candidate comes in, they click on a booth. They can read their organization bio. They can see these 3 tabs right here are all customizable. So they can showcase whatever you want to showcase about your company. You can put your social media. If you want to have a webinar, you can create a webinar up here. You can put company videos up here as well. And then you can chat with the companies. So they can have, the candidate can create a chat as well as the company, okay? So then you can see here, if I go into another booth, all of the job vacancies, they can view the details of the jobs and they can submit their resume. So that's all tracked on the back end. So if you're an individual company, you see all of that tracking of who submitted their resumes, who visited them. If you're the admin of the host of the event, you see by company who submitted their resume. So you have all of that data when you go to that company and you can say, hey, ABC Mortgage, I see that, here are the 17 people that submitted resumes. Can you let me know who you hired out of there for your tracking purposes, okay? And you see here, I can send a message to this company and I could still be talking to Premier Virtual as well. So the chat follows the candidates as long as they're in the hiring room, they have all of the information to be able to go in and see and still chat and not have to wait in long queues, not have to wait in line. They can still be doing everything that they need to do while they are chatting and talking with companies. So from an employer standpoint of view, it is going to be here. This is a company dashboard. This is where they set up their profile. They can set up recruiters so that they can have multiple recruiters. They can actually create predefined messages in there as well. And that means instead of saying the same thing over and over and over and over and over again, at the job fair, they don't have to type it. They can create predefined messages. Each recruiter can have their own messages. They create all of their job vacancies right here as well. And then they have their events. So when they come into the event, they're going to be able to see right here with the events, they see a couple different things. All of the submitted resumes are there. So they're getting real-time resumes that are being submitted to them. They get all of their visitors. So they know anytime somebody logs into their hiring room, they see that information. They can click on the resume, see the resume of that candidate as well. So they can, talk to them specifically about that. And then they can send them messages. So we can come in here. You can now send them the messages. You can create these are where the predefined messages are. If they want to do video chat, they can send a video link right here. We allow them to integrate with any of their systems that they have, Zoom, GoToMeetings, WebEx, so they don't have any firewall issues as well on any of that stuff. So this is the hiring room. And then afterwards, again, is they can see the job seekers and they have all of the data that's in here, and they can export all the data, which gives them all of the hard copy resumes, as well as an Excel spreadsheet with all of their contact information as well, so that they have all of that information. So that's just a quick little 5-minute of going through what that is. If somebody wants more information, always you can let us know to be able to see that. Is there any last questions that anybody has or anybody wants to go before we end the webinar today? All right. Well, it doesn't look like I have any new message. We'll send you out kind of the roadmap that Michael talked about and John said too. We'll send that out to you. And again, anybody else has any questions, even if it's just a best practice on a virtual career fair, my team is here to help you. We are 100% US based as well. And we would love to be able to help you. And any questions you have, let us know. Thank you and have a wonderful day.